Hello, I'm Officer Larry Howard with the Crime Prevention Office here in the Memphis Police Department, and it's a privilege of mine to be here today if you're during your advisory period in order to talk about some gang awareness. And I've also got a couple of more men from juvenile court that'll be coming up a little later on and they'll tell you who they are. But it's a privilege because we want you to know that the police department, every time you see us, it's always usually on TV, putting handcuffs on somebody, putting them in jail. Well, we're not all that way all the time. We also do things for the community. We do a lot of things for the community. We come into a lot of schools and we talk to a lot of kids about different things such as gang awareness. One of the things I'd like you to know about me is that I'm a 17-year veteran with the Memphis Police Department, had 10 more years before I came here, so 27 years as a police officer. I grew up in a small rural town of Ripley, Tennessee, and even in our small town, we had gangs. And my freshman year in high school, I was about 5 foot tall and weighed about 120 pounds. And every day, how many of you know what sticker bushes is? Every day I got thrown into the sticker bushes. Until I started my sophomore year, I started taking martial arts. After a year of martial arts, some of them started going to the sticker bushes whenever they tried to throw me. So I just wanted you to know, and just to let you know, what is a gang? A gang is nothing more than a group of bullies, correct? Nothing more than a group of bullies. That's what I want you to realize today. These days, there's only two ways to get into a gang. You either get beat in, or or the girl sleeps with them, one or the other, and there's no way out. You get beat out, and a lot of times when they beat you out, you get killed. But I want to let you know today that there are gangs in Memphis, and I want you to realize that you don't have to be a part of that. See, I'm familiar with this school. I'm familiar with a lot of your staff here. I'm familiar with your principals. And I understand that you have a lot going on, especially this particular class. You have so much going in the arts. You have your bands. You have your ensembles. You have so much going on. Your video, your TV, media, everything going on. So I would advise you today not to go the gangway. You've got so much to do. It's almost impossible not to get a college degree of some kind now. You've got all kind of chances for scholarships. You have all kind of chances for federal aid. So use it, but use it to the best of your ability, and not because I'm telling you, when you get into, if you start even hanging around gang members, something bad's going to happen. Because guess what? If you're out in a car, say for instance, a gangbanger comes by and picks you up in a car, you have no idea what's going on. He just said, let's go for a ride. You go for a ride with him. They pull you over. The car's stolen. Guess who stole that car besides him? You. You're there. You're in that car. So you're going to have going through a lot of grief. But I want you to know this morning that it's a lot better opportunities out there for you now. And gangs is not a part. At this time, I would like to introduce Garry Cuummings, that works with the juvenile administration, the intake, and he's going to tell you some things about juvenile court, and he's also going to give you some of the consequences that comes whenever you break the law as far as a juvenile. Thank you.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Come on. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. My name is Garry Cuummings, and I'm the administrator of Detention Services Bureau with Juvenile Court. I've been with Juvenile Court for about 23 years. All 23 years I've been in Detention Services Bureau. I'm also a graduate of Overton High School. Well, we were the Rebels then before they changed the name, so we were Overton Rebels before the Wolverines. I want to talk to you today a little bit about what happens when young people get involved with gangs and involve themselves with illegal activities. It's not illegal to be a member of a gang. It's illegal when the gang is involved in illegal activities, things like drugs, alcohol, committing crimes, and things of that nature. When those type of things happen, then law enforcement gets involved. When law enforcement gets involved, then if you're a minor and you're taken into custody by law enforcement for committing any type of delinquent act, then that's when you come in contact with juvenile court. Juvenile court is a 135-bed facility that houses has the capacity to house 114 males and 21 females. Today, our population is about 50. That's 50 young men or women, young women, that really should be out in the community attending school or doing something productive. Instead, they're housed with us, me and Mr. Coupe at juvenile court. Charges range from assault to first-degree murder to attempted first-degree murder. So we're not talking about young people that have, gotten in trouble for stealing out of a store or, jaywalking or anything like that. We're talking about young people that have committed some pretty serious offenses. And when you commit serious offenses like that, there are consequences. One of the consequences is coming to juvenile court. Once you come to juvenile court, there's a process that you have to go through. You initially enter into the intake area where you're processed in or booked in by one of the counselors in the intake area. That process basically consists of getting information about you, your family members, and any sibling that might be in your household that's under the age of 18. At that point, that's when we enter the information into the computer about your alleged charge. Based on the charge that you're currently brought into the court on and any type of program that you may be on under the court determines whether or not you have to stay in detention or whether or not you can be released. We use a risk assessment instrument, which is a decision-making tool called the DAT, the Detention Assessment Tool, to determine whether a child is eligible for secure detention or whether or not if they can be released. If they can be released, we contact the parent or guardian, and they come down and pick the youth up. If they can't, at that point, then that means they have to be admitted to the detention center. Once admitted to the detention center, there are a number of procedures that you have to go through. I brought some visuals with me today I just want you to take a look at. One thing is that once you're admitted to the detention center, you give up your nice clothes that you're wearing now for this. This is what you wear when you're detained in a detention center. This is a standard jumpsuit that youth that are detained in the detention center wear. As you can see, it's not name brand. As you can see, it's not really the best clothing item that I'm sure that most of you all prefer. But it's a part of the standardized clothing that youth wear once they're detained into the detention center. The second item that I brought with me, and I know you're going to kind of freak out a little bit about this, is these. What are those? These are underwear that basically are worn by other juveniles that have been in the detention center. They are washed daily, and they are sanitized, but you don't get a chance to keep your underwear. You have to trade your underwear in for court-issued underwear. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm sure I wouldn't like wearing underwear that other people have worn. But it's necessary because the object is not to make it comfortable for you where it's somewhere you would want to continue to come back and frequent. The goal is to try to make it uncomfortable for you to deter you from coming back. You trade in some of your name brand $100, $200 tennis shoes for these court-issue sandals. And if you do wear gym shoes, which you are allowed to wear gym shoes, they are not Nikes, they're not Air Jordans or anything like that. They're just standardized orange little slip-on canvas tennis shoes. But I'm saying all that to make this point. There's a lot of peer pressure. There are a lot of gangs and gang members trying to influence and recruit young people like yourselves into gangs. But you have to have the courage, and you have to have the knowledge, and you have to have the ability to go to an adult and talk to them, or a counselor in your school, your parent or guardian, a friend, somebody close to you that you feel like you can trust, if you feel like you're being pressured or trying to be recruited by a gang member. Because once you get into a gang and the gang starts involving themselves with illegal activities, then you are subject to come in contact with law enforcement, Mr. Howard, which means that you're more than likely going to come in contact with me at juvenile court. Now, I'll say this to you. In my 23 years at juvenile court, I've seen a lot of young people come through the court. Sometimes, I see young people that come through and they're able to rebound and become rehabilitated, and sometimes they aren't. Sometimes when I look at the news, I see where young people that have been in contact with the court have ended up, gotten shot and killed, or shot and they're paralyzed now, or they've gone from the juvenile system to the adult system, and pretty much the life that they had and the life that they should value as young people, it's pretty much kind of altered. Or now I wouldn't say over, because some of them do serve an extensive amount of time in the adult facility once they are transferred from the juvenile facility, and but some of them basically have put themselves in positions where now they have to abide by rules that are given to them, directives and rules that are given to them by people that don't even know them. If you think it's hard, or if you think it's such a big deal, obeying your parents or guardians when they tell you to do something, and they love you and they care about you, imagine how it is being locked in a detention center, having to abide by rules and regulations that are given to you by people that you don't even know and probably don't even love you. So, my thought process about gangs is, particularly when they're involved in illegal activity, is that, something needs to be done to try to stop them. And one way to stop them is that if you are confronted by a gang member to join a gang, is to let somebody know. You're not a coward. You're not anything less than what they may try to make you feel like you are if you tell somebody, or because you don't want to become a member. Because if you do, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be involved in illegal activities, and you're going to end up at juvenile court. You're going to be wearing one of those uniforms, wearing somebody else's underwear. Wearing underwear that somebody else has worn. And then you put yourself in a situation where you don't know what the outcome or what your fate is going to be. So I would just always like to say to young people, try to stay positive, try to stay focused, and know that when gang members do come to you and try to recruit you and approach you, I know it's kind of difficult at times, because they do sometimes bully and become threatening to you and other members of your family. But there's always somebody that you can reach out to, a counselor in the school, a parent or guardian, a friend, a church member, or a mentor or somebody like that. But I just want to leave you with this. At the end of the day, you can be a member of a group. And I'm not suggesting a gang, but there are a lot of groups that you could be a member of, like your civic group in the schools, groups that they have programs in the church, in your community, in family groups. But be an individual, be a part of the group, but be an individual in the group. Learn how to think for yourself, make your own decisions, and make good decisions, because when you make good decisions, you have good and positive outcomes. When you make bad decisions, then you have negative and not so positive outcomes. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you all today, and I'd like to introduce my colleague to you, Mr. Tom Coupe. He's an attorney with juvenile court, and he's going to speak with you all now. Thank you.
Is that clapping for me or for Mr. Cuummings? Thank you very much for letting me be here today. Right off the bat, we're talking about gangs, and I don't think this will probably come as any surprise, but I am not in a gang. I've never been in a gang, and I've never been approached by a gang. I have no idea the stresses and the things that you guys go through. So I can't be here to lecture you about what you shouldn't do and what you should do about that kind of stuff. As a lawyer, though, I can tell you what the consequences are when you get in trouble. That's kind of what I see from my side of things. I was an attorney with the Department of Children's Services for about 10 years before I came to juvenile court, and I've seen a lot of children go through the juvenile justice system and through the Department of Children's Services, and seen a lot of the ways children's lives are affected, and parents' lives are affected by the way the behaviors of the kids have taken place. One of the things that I know that the officer here will also talk about is that people are passing laws now to make the punishment for the crimes more difficult, and they're bringing them down more and more on kids. Because one of the things that from a legal standpoint, at least I understand, is that adult people, adults want kids to do the dirty work for them, because right now kids don't have to pay adult consequences. So if you're riding along with somebody and you're 15 years old and you got a gun on you, well, you know what? You're not going to go to jail for 25 years like you would if you're a felon who got a gun. So they have the kid take the charge for him. The kid spends 6 or 7 months in DCS custody. That's kind of how things work. Well, those laws are changing right now, and the legislature, the folks that are passing laws in Nashville, are recognizing that kids are doing a lot of the dirty work for adults, so they're making the crimes that the kids do more adult-like. That being said, a couple of the main things that I see at juvenile court that transfer on to adult court is that you can commit crimes as a juvenile and be charged as an adult and serve adult time now. You don't have to be, if you're over the age of 16, anything you do can get you an adult sentence. All right. If you're under the age of 16, only certain crimes can get you an adult sentence, but those certain crimes are aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, aggravated assault, murder, attempted murder, rape, attempted rape, and those kinds of things. But anything aggravated pretty much means you got a gun. So if you're going to rob somebody, or you're around somebody who was robbing somebody, or you're around somebody when you broke into a house or stole something and you have a gun on you, or somebody has a gun, that's aggravated, and that then becomes a charge that can get you an adult charge. So you can be 13 years old, hanging out with somebody who decides to go in a convenience store and rob a store, and if you get caught, then you can also be charged as a co-conspirator, a co-defendant in that case, and possibly sent over to adult prison. And at that time, you can get an adult charge. If you're in a juvenile system at 13, the worst you can do is stay until you're 19 years old. And more often than not, that would be at some kind of group home or in a lockdown facility that the juvenile court has no control over, probably somewhere in Nashville. But because of the way the laws are changing now, that those things now you're seeing more and more decisions to transfer children to adult court, not only locally but also nationally. And so that's something you really need to be aware of, because that's kind of where you guys get put in a tough spot. One of the things that juvenile law, I guess, and juvenile justice and the way things are changing is that people understand that kids are going through a lot. That your brains, and this is, I'm not talking down to you, it's just a matter of fact, that you guys aren't fully ready to take on the responsibilities of being an adult yet. Heck, I wasn't responsible to be an adult when I was 25 years old. I was still goofing off and doing stupid stuff. And studies have shown that the guys especially, aren't really fully brain developed until they're 25 years old. Girls 22, 23 years old. So when you guys are going through these things at 14, 15, 16 years old, you have a lot of pressures going on, a lot of experiences that are going on that you aren't ready to fully comprehend and really fully understand. And I don't know what the answer for that is. The answer is that you try to find people you trust. Friends, family, church, and this has been said a million times, but friends, family, church members, people at school that you trust, and talk to them about your problems. again, and I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do as your life goes on, but those are the tough decisions you got to make, and you got to trust people. You got to find somebody you trust, somebody you care about. I know that each of you probably has somebody you really trust, you really look up to, and kind of confide in that person when you have problems, whether those problems are boyfriend, girlfriend, whether they are best friend, mother with your parents, with your brothers and sisters. You've got to have to talk to somebody because you can't keep it all inside yourself. More kids that I've seen come through the juvenile system have a lot of either anger issues or emotional issues because they haven't really found an outlet to express them, whether it's talking to a friend, whether it's talking to somebody they're working with. So those are the kinds of things that you really just kind of need to understand, that you don't need to have the weight of the world on you. It's tough to keep everything inside you, and it's tougher when you're 15, 16, 17 years old to do that. That's kind of my little spiel. I don't know if you're taking questions or anything like that. If you guys have any questions, I think I work better in that kind of format with questions and answers than I do just kind of standing up here and giving a speech or whatever. But again, the bigger thing is that you look in the paper every day and watch the news, and you're going to see kids that have been, and I'll call them kids because a 21-year-old's a kid to me, a 20-year-old, 22-year-old kid getting charged with murder, getting charged with some kind of violent crime. They're going to be gone for a long time, and they're going to have to face consequences. 16, 17-year-old kids, we've seen in the news recently where some really young kids have committed some serious crimes, and they're going to face the consequences of going to jail for a very, very long time. And you might know some of these people, you might know some of the neighborhoods that this is going on, but these things are happening, and these crimes aren't going unpunished, all right? And unfortunately, most of these are some either kids in gangs, kids who want to be in gangs, or kids that are trying to show out like they are in one. But the bottom line is you're going to get caught. I mean, so if you commit crimes, really, the police department does a really good job, especially in serious violent crimes. Chances are, the statistics show, you're going to get caught. If someone gets murdered, they're going to find the person that did the killing, and then when it all shakes out, someone's going to go to jail, or a lot of people are going to go to jail for a really long time for that. So it's something's always going to happen, and you're going to get caught. That's kind of my little lawyer thing that I see, that it's just going to happen. If you don't do those kinds of serious things, you won't go to jail for a very long time. Anybody have any questions about just any juvenile court stuff or anything like that, or any things that I've seen? It would make this little part go a little bit easier for me, probably. Come on, somebody's got to have one question out there. I'm going to start calling on somebody and asking for questions in a second here.
What's the most common crime for juvenile offenders?
That's a great question. What do you think the most common crime is? So someone throw out some charges. What do you think the most common crime is? Robbery. All right. Anybody else? Assault. All right. DUI. Okay. Drugs. All right. I think you've caught a couple of those that are pretty popular. One of our number one charge, and this is domestic assault. We had over 700 kids last year brought to our detention center for domestic assault, meaning that their parents called the police on them for either assaulting a parent or assaulting someone else in the household. It's a serious situation, and obviously I'm sure it's frustrating for all parties involved, but that's our number one charge, which is good in a way. It's good in a way because the first thing you hear about juveniles and crime is that they're out there killing people. All right, they're out there killing people, and then all these kids are out there just running around doing killing stuff. We had about 3,800 kids brought to our detention center last year, maybe even a little bit less than that, but 700 of those kids brought to our detention center were brought there for domestic assault. By far and away our number one charge. We had last year 90 kids transferred to adult court for murder, which is a lot, but those are the ones that were only transferred. We had some kids that stayed within the juvenile system for those kinds of charges, but 90 kids were transferred for murder last year. And that's some serious stuff there. We also do have a lot of assaults, your regular assaults, possession of marijuana, those kinds of things, and those kinds of things that happen in the course of other things going on. You get your possession of marijuana because you're riding a car without tags, so the police officer pulls you over, and you guys have been smoking, and it smells like dope everywhere. You can't hide the smell of dope, guys. If you're going to ride in a car, don't go smoking dope when you're riding in a car. You look stoned, you smell stoned, and your car smells like weed, you're going to get caught. And don't ride around with tags that are expired or headlights that are out or anything like that. You just, don't do drugs in the first place. But more importantly, is you get in all these issues where you compound your problems by doing dumber and dumber stuff as time goes on. But those are the big charges right there. We saw.
What about truancy?
Truancy is something that we're addressing. In our reality, the DA is in charge of prosecuting truancy, and the school officers are obviously in charge of reporting truancy. There are over 100,000 kids in the Shelby County school system, probably close to 120 now. And on any given day, about 10,000 kids are not in school. Now, not being in school isn't truant. The law says you have to miss 5 days of school. 5 days. That's all you need. 5 unexcused absences in a school year is truancy, which means that you can face punishment for that, and your parents can face punishment. Your parents can be fined for that. I've seen in a previous jurisdictions where I was in, this is Williamson County, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, they would, one of the judges would make the parent come to school with the kid every day because the child was old enough to go to school on his own. And the parent would go to school and let him walk to school, and he would choose not to go to school. So he made the parent come and follow his kid around all day long, sit in the desk next to him for a week. So there's certainly there are a lot of things you can do with truancy that are outside of the normal bounds of punishment, things like that could really be embarrassing. Actually, having your mom or dad carrying your book bag around for you all day long. Plus, it'd probably make your mom and dad pretty mad having to show up to school all day long. But yeah, so truancy is a real big issue, and unfortunately, the DA is understaffed to where if they really wanted to prosecute every single truancy case, we'd have lines at the courtroom for years. It's an unfortunate thing because school is so important.
Recently, our school has been getting tagged by a local gang. What kinds of charges would that gang or those gang members face if they were caught and if they happen to be juvenile? What kind of fines and stipulations does gang tagging and things like that carry?
Well, the tagging itself can go beyond just simple vandalism. You obviously can, at some point, the way the laws are written, that can go into harassment, intimidation, and the way gang, I guess, ordinance is now written, that the use of threat or harassment can rise to another level of punishment, and the officer might be able to provide some more information about that. But those are issues that go well beyond your typical vandalism, where you're just going to break a window and all you do is get a warning or a fine or something like that. This goes higher than that, to where you could be face some time where you might have to leave your house for a while. And that's one of the punishments. I think I'll talk about this in a couple of days, but one of the punishments in juvenile court, if you're found delinquent, you can stay in your house and serve out your delinquent offense. You can go to some kind of probation that the court will have for you. But if you get placed in DCS custody, there's a chance that you can get placed in a group home somewhere, either in Shelby County or outside of Shelby County. And if you get placed in lockdown, the only lockdown facilities are in Fayette County, Tennessee. And for girls, the only lockdown facility is in Nashville. So you'd be that far away from your parents if you're sent to a lockdown facility. And the court has no authority to tell DCS where to send kids. All they can do is say the child should go to DCS custody. At that point, then DCS can put you in a facility in Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville, Fayette County, and be really far away from your friends and family, which hopefully most of you wouldn't want to do that. It's not a very good thing. I think that's about it. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for the good questions. And and life is tough, and being a kid is tough, and just get through it, and just find someone you trust, find someone you care about, stick together. Find kids that are good role models with you, and go from there. Thanks a lot.
We were here just a few days ago with myself along with juvenile court. You were wanting us to talk to you about some gang awareness, and also we kind of went through the process of course, gangs and different things that they get you involved in bullying. And we also talked to you about what happens whenever you get detained and get taken to juvenile court, and what happens when you have to stay there for a few days. We also talked to you about some of the charges, the felonies that you have to go through in the court system and everything. But today we're going to talk a few things besides that. One of the things that I did not touch on the other day that I want to bring forth to you, how many of you have one of these? All right. How many of you know that when you take pictures of yourself and you send them to your boyfriend or your girlfriend, that you think that's as far as it goes? A police agency, any government agency that is law, like the Memphis Police Department, TBI, FBI, they can go into these phones and they can pull out every text, every picture, every video that you have in here, even if the phone is broken. So, reason I'm saying that is because a lot of kids don't realize that when you're doing things like texting, Twitter, or Facebook, when you put that stuff out, say for instance, and one of the biggest things that we have going on in our schools now as far as bullying is cyberbullying. How many of you are familiar with that? And there's been kids that's been hurt. There's been kids that's been killed. And see, there are laws being written up by the legislature right now to give more strenuous and hard time for crime as far as cyberbullying, because cyberbullying is threatening people, and once you threaten people over a cell phone or Facebook or Twitter, it's recorded, and it can be brought against you. You have no idea how many cases that police officers are able to charge people with because of statements that they made on texting on a telephone, or pictures that they took on the telephone. How many of you ever seen things on Facebook like somebody sitting there holding a gun thinking they're real tough and everything? Has anybody ever seen any of those pictures? Well, they've got now to where the government's finding these people out, and they can go right to your house and find out what computer. They can find the source of where it's coming from. But we want to talk to you today. I just wanted to cover that with you and just let you know that you're not alone. I know we're not being invaded by some outside species across the other galaxy or something. You know, I'm just letting you know that the government absolutely knows a little bit more about things that's going on in your life, even though you don't think they might. But today we're going to the focus is going to be more on what happens when young people go to prison, and it's not easy. And also some diversion. Miss Lakeisa Martin from the juvenile court, she's going to be showing you some things about diversion programs such as house arrest. See, that's a lot of things most people may not know a lot about, but she's going to be telling you some stuff from juvenile court. Now, were any of you here Tuesday? How many of you enjoyed that? I mean, that's one of the things that we brought in different people from different agencies and different parts of the agency. And Miss Martin, she's going to be bringing you some things. But right before she comes, just in the event that you might have a question for me, is there any of you that might have a question for me from the police standpoint? Oh, everybody go at once. Well, you know what? That's pretty good. Yes, ma'am.
Well, maybe you can talk to them about a lot of what we've been having lately is kids charged with sexual exploitation, of when they transfer a picture, even though they just send it to one person. If it's of a child, it could be child pornography.
Yes. Oh, and just to make mention of that, there's a case that there's a police officer that got relieved of duty in Dyersburg because of the same thing. Two girls that were underage sent him some pictures of themselves with very little or any clothes on. And he is probably about to do anywhere from 10 to 15 years in prison, maybe more. You don't realize something, especially young people. Don't do that. Don't do that. This is recorded. And you don't have, at the age of 14 or 16 or even 17, You don't have permission, even if you think you're old enough to do that. You do not have permission because your parents would have to approve anything of your pictures that you put out there, period. And you don't have any right to put anything that's got you in a bathing suit or no clothes on at all. That's just strictly prohibited. Not only are you going to get yourself in trouble, but the person that you send it to, if they're over 18, they can do prison time for that. So you need to realize that before you start sending pictures, to people. There's consequences. How many of you know with everything, every decision that you make comes a consequence? How many of you know that? So if you make good decisions, what kind of consequences are you going to have? And if you make bad decisions, what kind of consequences are you going to have? Exactly. My desire is to see every one of you. This is a wonderful class, teaching television, journalism, whatever. There may be some Walter Cronkites in here. You never know. But one of the things that I like is because you're creative. Being in television, being in video, it's creative. There's a lot of creative minds in here, and if you don't believe me, just tap into it. You can find it. But at this time, if no more questions, yes.
Okay, I know you said like from 10 to 15 years, so is that the time frame for like the jail sentence?
Taking pictures and sending them, this is federal. This is not just state. This is federal. Because that has the opportunity of going everywhere. And in state courts, unless a sentence may run concurrent, when it means concurrent, that means one right after another. If you get sentenced 10 years, you may can reach parole after about 3.5. But that doesn't always happen. Depends on the charge, depends on the violence. But if you have to do 10 years federal time, guess how many years you're going to have to do? 10. Federal time don't play. That's one of the things, one of the most important things that a lot of people don't realize is whenever you get caught in a federal crime with just shells in a magazine, you get a year for every shell that's in that gun tacked on. So that's one thing that's very important that you need to know that as well. But at this, any more questions? Good question. Very good. Did I answer it? Any other questions? Yes.
You said that taking pictures in a bathing suit could cause you to possibly go to jail, right?
Well, I'm saying it could possibly cost the people that you send it to, if they're over 18 and you're under 18, could cause them to go to jail. And could cause you to get in some trouble too, because if let me ask you this, if this is happening, does mom and dad know what's going on? Because until you're 18, you still have a guardian that you're under, whether it be your mom or dad, whether it be your grandmother, whether it be an uncle. You have anything that's that you're under 18. Yes, somebody does have a say in what you do. I'm afraid so. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Good questions. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Miss Lakeisa Martin from the Juvenile Court System.
Cheat sheet right there. My name is Lakeisa Martin, and I'm a supervisor in the Youth Services Bureau. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that, but first I want to follow up on a couple of things that Officer Howard mentioned to you about Facebook, and this is a true story. So I'm on my Facebook page one day looking at some of my friends' pictures, and I'm just scrolling through the picture, and her brother-in-law had got killed, and they were doing a repast in Mississippi, which is where I'm from. And I'm going through my Facebook page, and I see a kid that's on our program on the Facebook page, which is a clear violation. I'm not friends with this kid, didn't even know we knew the same people, but that just lets you know, you never know who sees your information. And of course there was a violation, and he had to go to court, and he ended up getting locked up. Excuse me. The second thing I want to talk to you all about that Officer Howard mentioned was the pictures with the cell phone and posting pictures on your Facebook page. If your friend, kids record everything now, and there's been instances where we've had kids in compromising situation. Maybe they're engaging in sexual activity, and he sends that video to his friend, and if that friend sends it to someone else, that friend can get charged because you're distributing child pornography. So when there are pictures of kids on someone you know doing things they shouldn't be doing, don't send that, because you can. And we've had several cases lately of kids distributing child pornography because they're sending that picture on, and then you send it to someone else and you share it with someone else. So just 2 tips to think about. Don't post everything on Facebook, and don't share everything. So today I'm going to talk to you about what happens after court. When you go to court, there are several things that can happen to your case. Your charges can be dismissed, which means the judge didn't find that there was a cause to charge you with that. He can also give you an advisement. An advisement is a type of diversion program which say, I'm going to leave your case open, and if you do everything you're supposed to do, we'll dismiss this charge after a year. He can give you probation, which means you'll have a probation officer that supervises your case. He can place you on probation in Youth Services Bureau, which is my program, which is probation, but it's also a home confinement house arrest program. And I'm going to talk more about that and how we monitor you. You can also get placed in the Department of Children's Service custody, which means that the state has custody of you. You're removed from your parents' home, and the state can place you in a group home. They can put you in a residential treatment facility, or they can put you in a secure facility, which means you're in jail. And they don't have to keep you here. They can place you wherever they want to because the state has custody of you, and they make the decisions for you now, not your parents. Or your case can be transferred to adult court for you to be tried as an adult, and that's usually for our more serious crimes. Any questions so far? Okay. Youth Services Bureau is a type of probation, and it's a house arrest program. On that program, we have 2 types of supervision. There's case management, where you have a case manager assigned to your caseload, and they'll call and check on you every month. They might have you calling in. They might place you on electronic monitoring. Intensive case management is where you actually have a probation officer that checks on you at home, at school, and in the community. While you're on our program, there are a set of rules you have to follow. And basically, they're the same rules that your parents will give you. You have to go to school. You can't get in trouble. If you want a driver's license, you have to get permission from the court. If your address or anything changed, you have to call in. Those are the basic rules. Sometimes there are additional rules we add. We may say you need to go to counseling. If you have alcohol and drug issue, we may say go to A&D counseling. We may give you community service. You may have to do things like write a paper. It's really at the discretion of your probation officer. Anything that they can do or think of to help you correct your behavior, they can do it, and the court is going to back them up. When it comes to electronic monitoring, there are 3 types we have. There's voice verification. That means if you have a home phone, we record your voice, make a voice template, and our system will call you at random times. And at that random times, you have to call the monitor center back. And you can't have someone call for you because they make a voice template. And they'll know if it's you or not. We also have electronic monitoring. We have 2 types. I'm going to grab those and tell you about them. This is our first type. It's radio frequency. And I forgot the band, but there's a band. This is attached to your leg, and this is plugged into the wall. And what this unit does, it tells us when you come in the house and when you leave. Okay? Now, the next unit we have is called a GPS. And this one pinpoints where you are at all times. This is the band. This is the unit. You have to charge this unit for 2 hours every day. If you don't charge it, it sends us an email to let us know. If you leave, it let us know. While you have this unit on, we could pinpoint where you are at any time. Okay? Those units are waterproof. A lot of kids think, well, I can take this off. You can't take them off. When you cut the band, it's going to send us an alert letting us know that that band has been tampered with. It's going to send us an alert to let us know when it was unplugged, if it's been moved. It actually, the RF unit can let us know if other kids with ankle bracelet comes around. It can also pick those units up. Okay? There isn't a certain time frame on our program. It really depends on how you do. A lot of kids come in and say, I do probation and I'll get off and that's it. We've had kids on our program for as little as 4 months, and we've had kids on our program for as long as a year. And for that whole year, you are under the supervision of the court. And you have to follow our rules. Starting out, when you're on home confinement, you get no outings. The only time you can go anywhere is to go to school, go to doctor's appointment. On Saturdays from noon to 8, you get free time with your parent, which means that if y'all want to go to a movie or if y'all want to go to dinner, you have to do it on Saturday between noon and 8, and we do give you time for worship service. Other than that, you have to be in the home. So if you have extracurricular activities that you really like, if you're involved in sports, you may not get a chance to play those sports. If you have a job, you may have to quit your job. It just depends on what your charge is, how many times you've been with the courts. A lot of things you give up when you get placed on home confinement. Eventually, if you're on our program and you do well, we do give you back some of those privileges. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. With the Jeep, when you're on home confinement, you can't go outside your home. We don't give you a range to go outside your home. So we've had people say, well, he has to cut the grass. Well, ma'am, he may not be able to cut the grass because that's going to tell us that you're leaving. The only time you should be leaving your home is to go to school, go to worship service, doctor's appointment, or on Saturdays from noon to 8. Other than that, you're in the home. You can't sit on the porch. You can't be in the backyard. You're in the home. Home confinement is given in lieu of detention. Your choices are you can get locked up and follow the rules that they have in detention, which are not great, believe me, because there they tell you when to go to bed, tell you what to wear. You don't have an option of what you wear. You wear the uniform they provide, when to eat and what to eat. So you give that up if you don't want to follow the rules of being in the home. Yes, ma'am?
Is one system worse than the other?
One, in a sense, yes. We starting off, we want to trust you. We want to see if you're going to do right. Although you've been to court and you've been adjudicated of doing something you shouldn't have, we're going to give you the opportunity to just have the radio frequency. And that just lets us know when you come and go. It doesn't tell us where you've been. And so that's the least supervision or the least restrictive, but the GPS is more restrictive because it can track you anywhere. You can be in California, and if there's a charge on that unit, we'll be able to track where you are. Yes, ma'am.
Are there consequences for if somebody else with ankle bracelet comes around you?
It is, because if they're not for you, if you're at home and you're in the house like you're supposed to be, excuse me, and your friend comes over and they're on home confinement as well, then the consequence would be for that individual, not for you, because you're doing what you're supposed to do. Any other questions? I know none of you all have been to juvenile court, and that's great, right? Just something to think about and to tell your friends about that. A lot of people think if things happen when you're a juvenile, it's no big deal. You've heard people say they don't check your juvenile record. That's not true. We have people from the military call us constantly about kids who want to go into the military, and one of the things they do is check your record at juvenile court. So if you have certain charges on your record, you won't be able to go to the military. You may not be able to qualify for financial aid. So those are just some things to think about. And also, when you get arrested as a juvenile and you've been found guilty of certain charges, those carry on into the adult. We have kids who may have committed aggravated burglary as a juvenile, and then if they go on to an adult and commit another aggravated burglary, that's counted on. They get sentenced according to that burglary as well. So the years add up, and it knocks you out of ever having diversion if you're an adult and different things like that. Any other questions? No?
What is diversion?
Diversion? Diversion for juvenile is an advisement, and for an adult it's called diversion. And that's basically the judge giving you an opportunity to do right. They'll give you an amount of time, usually a year, and within that year, if you don't get in any more trouble, you don't come back for the court, you complete all the conditions that they've asked, they will dismiss the charge against you. And you can have that expunged from your record.
If you had to break it down, what are the top 5 things that you want the juveniles to realize about the court system and gang awareness and crime prevention and all of these kind of things?
One, that is real. I think kids don't understand that what you're doing, there are consequences, like he said. We've had a lot of kids who didn't realize that, okay, I'm in a gang, and the gang requires that we're going to rob somebody, and somebody end up getting shot. If you're with that person, you get the charge just like they do. You get a murder charge. And typically with juveniles, especially at the age of 14, you can be transferred. And what that means is that you're transferred to stand trial as an adult, even if you're 14, which means that you can spend 25 years or more of your life in jail. That's one. 2 is, I don't know. I mean, that caught me off guard. Choices, make better ones. Think about the consequences. A lot of times the people at juvenile court may not feel, you may want to come in and say, well, I had a right, the teacher did this and the teacher did that, but that's not what we're there for, to side with you and say this doesn't happen, you're right. When you come to juvenile court, we all have a job there to do. We're going to try to divert you, we're going to try to keep you out the court system, but if we see you coming back for the same thing, then at that point our hands are tied. You have to go to court. And we have kids that are unruly, which are basically kids who don't want to follow the rules, and kids who are delinquent. An unruly kid can end up in the same place a delinquent child can. Someone who's committed a carjacking, who's committed a theft or a robbery. Because after a while, we don't have anything to offer you but to maybe this behavior can only be corrected if you're placed in a secure setting. The other thing is we're big on school attendance. We want you all to understand that school is really a safe place, and it's going to open opportunities that you never imagine. A lot of kids, we see they're behind in school, and so they don't like to go to school. They go to school, they cause problem. We deal with a lot of kids getting suspended. And it's not much we could do. We can't ask the school system to keep taking you back time and time again if you're disruptive, because there are kids there who actually want to learn. So again, because you're behind in school, or because you don't understand, or because you're having problems, being disruptive is not the answer, and we're there to help as much as we can. The juvenile justice system is not nice. It's not pretty. I know you probably know someone who's been down there several times, who've gotten a slap on the wrist, and it's no big deal. We don't get everybody. People fall through the cracks. Every kid that violates probation may not be locked up, but there are several who are, and you don't want to be that one who say, well, this didn't happen to them, I can go and do it, because you will get caught. I believe there are kids who do things, and the first time they do it, they get caught because that's not what you do. But then there are kids who really are delinquent, and we just want you to make better choices when you make friends. When we have kids who move here, and they always gravitate towards the bad kids, no matter where they are. And we just hope that that's not you, that you find all the positive things around you. Yes. Anything else? I'm sorry.
All right, let's go.
I just want to leave you with one thing. Police officers, whenever you see us, we don't want you to think bad all the time, but when you see police officers in a negative way all the time, obviously that's what you're going to think. But this is one today. I want you to make something out of yourself. I want you to leave here today with a thought that whatever you project your dreams to be, whether it be in sports, whether it be in government, whether it be a teacher, doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, I'm telling you today that you have the opportunity to shoot for the stars. Aim your goals high. Don't let somebody else that don't want to go high, don't let them pull you down. Aim your goals high, because I promise you, it's not only going to benefit you, but it's going to benefit countless others that's around you. Because you know what? When you make something good of yourself and you get around others that make something good of themselves, it mushrooms out. And the more it mushrooms out, the more people, the more families, the more communities that it represents. And that's my desire, is to see every one of you make something of yourself. Whenever I come back to this school, maybe within a few years or whatever, I can look and see all these people that's graduated from here, that some of you have made United States congressmen or congresswomen. You may be musicians. I know this is a big school on music and the arts. I may see you on TV playing soul or blues or whatever. I might even have a ticket to the place sitting there listening. Ain't no telling. But I just want you to know that I appreciate the opportunity, and Miss Lakeisa Martin appreciates the opportunity of being here in order to talk to you, and hopefully something that we've shared with you sticks. Thank you so much.